The race war has finally broken out on X, heading into 2025, waging battle against the dreaded. We've got Elon Musk on one side saying how we need more of these top-tier immigrant talent coders from India who need their H-1B visas so they can take all the top jobs in tech. And on the other side, we have the people crying out, "No more Indians!" Elon, you may be surrounded by a bunch of sycophants who just want to tell you what you want to hear. The people on X are risking their accounts to tell you the truth. So you can slam down the hammer on us, and you can use your algorithms to lower us on the platform, to demonetize us. But all that will happen is we'll eventually leave the platform, and all you'll be left with is a bunch of Indians and Israeli bots arguing at each other as to who loves Israel more. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy on here again. Scammed and defrauded shareholders of $2 billion worth of fake dementia medicine. Nobody wants to bring this up anymore because he just parrots the right-wing talking points, and we still have a bunch of white people who think it's a good idea to have a brown person represent them because, look, that means we're not racist. Nobody ever stops to ask themselves if there's a reason for this racism. I don't really care about being called racist. What I care about is it true? You can't really call the truth racist. The truth is just the truth. If you want to call it racist or homophobic or sexist or whatever else label you want to put on it, that's just because you're trying to discredit something that you have no real reasonable argument against. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. It's just hilarious to me that a man who comes from a culture that does things like this and this wants to talk about American culture. Also, you're not living in the country of the culture that you're supposedly saying is superior. You've chosen to live here. But if the culture is so much better in India, why aren't you there? Why did it take you coming to America and American culture to prosper? Could it be that perhaps we have a superior culture and that even though you're trying to put us down right now, you're full of it? Tough questions demand tough answers. And if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long. I don't know what American culture he's talking about that values mediocrity. America has always pushed their best and their brightest. Also, if we value mediocrity so much, then why are you also simultaneously saying that we need to have the best and top tier immigrants? Then he continues, a culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Okay, so I'm tired of this shit, okay? Because we have been under this delusion that somehow all of our top performing athletes and our beauty queens are also stupid, and the really intelligent people are the nerdy people in the corner who nobody talks to. That idea was pumped into our brains by a bunch of Hollywood executives who wanted to elevate a certain demographic of very nerdy, physically ill-equipped people and put this idea into our head that somehow IQ and looks don't correspond, which actually studies show differently. The same genes that promote attractiveness seem to be linked with high levels of intelligence. And if we look at the history record of Europeans, we will often find that the heroes that are pronounced to us also come with tremendous physical stature. Alexander the Great, Teddy Roosevelt, JFK. Okay, he had some adrenal issues, but he was a very good-looking man. And in fact, the wimpy, sickly-looking men usually tend to be of low character. They don't have courage, and they're not necessarily smart either. He's making it seem like truly there is a dearth of talent within Americans, and specifically white Americans, and I'm here to tell you that's a load of shit. There's a tremendous amount of talent that gets overlooked simply because these are white males. And there are plenty of stories. You can have anecdotal stories. You can go look up the statistics as well of white non-Jewish acceptance rates into top schools and top programs. It's disproportionate to the population. So everybody wants to talk about representation. I want representation. I want representation. But what they really mean is they want to see less white people. If you wanted true representation, you would have a reflection of the population in whatever thing you wanted representation in. So for example, instead of every commercial having 7 black people in it, the commercials would reflect the percentage that black people actually correspond into the US population, which is about 13%. But if an alien came down and watched our TV shows, movies, and commercials, they'd be like, wow, this nation was 95% fat, black, and retarded. I'm not going to read the rest of his ridiculous prompt because you can go read it yourself. But basically his point is that we spend so much time watching movies and sitcoms that we've all become mentally deficient. In response to this, there have been several stories, personal anecdotes of people who have these skills that the tech industry supposedly are requiring who have been shut out of both colleges and the marketplace. I'm going to read just a couple of them to you. You know, Cernovich had a really good response to Vivek here. Got to give it to him. He said, the Woodstock generation managed to build out aerospace. The one before went to the moon. America was doing great. Underlying your post is that we were all living in squalor until being rescued by H-1Bs, then why did everyone want to come here? This is the question on everybody's mind, right? If America is so full of dunces, if it's so backwards, if it's so collapsing under the weight of its lack of intelligentsia, why do you all want to come here? If you're all so talented, why don't you build up India? We're supposed to believe that all these Indians are super high skilled tech coding guys who want to come here and help our country. Really? Why wouldn't you want to help your own country that you continuously talk about how great it is and how superior it is to America, but yet you need to come to America to exploit an economic system that has been created by a bunch of dunces, supposedly, who need you to maintain it? It lacks logic. The truth of the matter is that many of these H-1B visas are scams. There was a scam that was recently uncovered in Canada of a guy who had set up a fake agency in his basement and was just processing all of these H-1B visas for Indians, either relatives or friends or friends of relatives. Turned out to be a total scam. They're known to fake their credentials, to fake their degrees, to fake their accomplishments. And usually what happens is they go into one of these companies, they take it over, and then they just hire their own. So here's the moment Elon Musk got ratioed by a guy who I think had only 300 followers. He's no longer on X. We don't know if he deactivated his account or if he was deactivated for daring to embarrass the king. But the person said, "My son graduated with honors with electrical and computer engineering degrees in 2023. He cannot get an interview, let alone a job. Any white male he knew in college can't get jobs either. Many are currently working in data center jobs that don't require their education." Now, I know stories like this as well. I know stories of super talented white males who were in the peak performance of their class. I'm talking about, 98th percentile, 99th percentile SAT scores, top GPAs, well-rounded, so they can't do this fake nebulous thing of like, well, we want to see what kind of leadership qualities they have, who could not get into the elite level universities. And it's not because they were outperformed, but it's because preference was given to underperforming favored groups. This is a chart of medals awarded to countries in tech competitions for coding. China's number one, that's to be expected, but then there's Russia, there's the US, there's Korea, Poland, Japan, Romania, Iran, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Canada, Croatia. There's a lot of European countries on here. Why don't we recruit from them if we want the top performers? Let's go see where India is. Oh, look at that. It's all the way at the bottom. Now, that might look like it's kind of impressive, right? 3 gold medals, 24 silver, 40 bronze, a total of 67. But when you factor in that India has a population of about 1.2 billion, and then you compare it to a country like Singapore, which has maybe 6 million people, and they have outperformed India by winning 1.4 times the number of medals that they have. Well, now we got a totally different picture, don't we? I'm in the industry. This is true. Indians are basically masters of flowing flowcharts. You want actual talent that's not American, you get Russians, Germans, Czechs, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans. You need tech-savvy artists. France, Spain, Italy, Japan are also. Here's another story from a guy whose company ended up outsourcing their coding to India. The locals were laid off, and they kept a core group of their most experienced engineers on hand. And I will tell you, we spent 80% of our time cleaning up the crap development that was coming out of India. I've heard tons of stories like this. I've heard these kinds of stories directly. I used to know a guy who worked in recruiting for tech companies, and he said basically they go to Vietnam, Singapore, and America. They said they will not deal with Indians because of 2 reasons. Number 1, their coding is pretty terrible. And number 2, that they end up costing the companies tons of money because they have no loyalty. What they will do is they will get a job at a company and they will immediately leverage it for a higher paying position at another company. They try to get to a middle level management position where they can then bring in tons of other Indians, and the whole company gets taken over by Indians, and needless to say, nobody ever uses the toilets. Really, guys, we just need to use our logic. Are we supposed to believe that a country who put out a video like this claiming to have gone on the moon is full of sophisticated tech geniuses? And at the end of the day, the real problem is that people are tired of America being hollowed out and treated as a banking system, and that's really what's going on. And a big part of that problem is that we've become a totally materialistic world, right? The only thing that seems to matter is how much money you can make. And this is the real issue. This is why so many people find themselves empty and lacking meaning, because money in itself will not give you purpose. Fame in itself will not give you purpose. It used to be that those things were connected to some kind of major accomplishment or contribution that you did for your people. Heroes of old, stories of Achilles, Alexander the Great, Napoleon, these kind of people, they weren't just famous because they were posting pictures of their buttholes online. They were famous because they actually did something. Somehow we've separated those two things and seen the fame as the end goal. That's why so many people find themselves empty. So it's more than just about the shitty code, right? It's also about the fact when people from a totally different culture come here, they bring their culture with them and in ways that are detrimental. and not just, ooh, you're being racist. Here's a classic example. Google had an issue a few years back where the caste system that operates in India made its way into the Google culture. One of the Google employees tried to hold a talk, I guess, about some of the caste discrimination that she was facing, because I guess she's from a lower tier, as well as Google's handling of sexual harassment cases. Oh, shocker. You had a bunch of Indians and you had a bunch of sexual harassment cases. What could this be? And what happened? Oh, well, the people that she was trying to bring attention to started accusing her of having anti-Hindu rhetoric. These people know how to exploit our system of equality and non-discrimination, but they invent stories that don't even exist and then use it as a weapon against us. They don't believe the things they're saying. This is why you're going to see a bunch of Indians accusing you of racism online. Meanwhile, they are so racist towards, let's say, Pakistanis because they're Muslim Indians. They're racist to the lower tiered Indians, the lower caste Indians, and of course they're racist to white people, but nobody cares about that, so I didn't say it first. This is the kind of hypocrisy that we don't want to deal with, because on the one hand, they're crying that we're being racist toward them, but then they have no problem exhibiting that racism. So they don't really object to racism, and they don't really care that you are. They just know that you care, and they know that this is a weapon that they can use. They've studied the system of what's going on in this country, and they see, oh yeah, if we just accuse these people of being racist, we win. It's like, hey, guess what? There's a whole brand of Americans who don't care about you calling them racist anymore. So you should update your code software program and see if you can come back with something else. Anyway, they made up these stories. They started circulating rumors that she was anti-Hindu, and that's what was going on. And it shut up. During that time, opponents to caste equity, meaning people who were opposed to treating members of different castes equally, internally circulated disinformation about, I can't say her name, she might have been right, but whatever, to derail the civil rights event until its ultimate cancellation. So this is what happened, right? You have somebody within the company who's being discriminated against, who notices the way women are being treated. She starts a movement, wants to have a discussion, wants to change the culture, and these people bring their culture. They start their disinformation campaigns, lies, which, by the way, we know what this culture is good for. There's a lot of lying and scamming.
Here is the problem with Indians. You cannot teach them anything good.
And accuse her of the very thing that they were doing. Why? Because it gave them power. So it's not just an objection to these people because they're bad at coding. We don't want their culture. They come in and they buy up whole neighborhoods, pack in a bunch of them into that neighborhood, and now suddenly we're in Little India. There's 1.4 billion Indians. They have all of India. Why do they also need America? Why do they also need England? Can't white people have shit? And on top of that, they have such an arrogance and entitlement. When you point this out, they attack you. This is an employee at X, by the way, an Indian employee at X, and this is the way they're conducting themselves. Laughing my ass off, shut the fuck up, white boy. What have you built? What have you invented? What has your father built and his father before that? I mean, the arrogance, okay? They built a country that obviously you wanted to come to. Did your father build that? Did your father before him build that? No. They built something that you left. But this is what I'm talking about, the blatant arrogance and shaming. And it's gone on for too long because white people are so afraid of being called racist, which, by the way, that's changing. And any of you white people who are still being afraid of called racist, you're going to be left behind. And this person rightly responds, our fathers built the countries that you benefit from, and you do well to remember that. Why didn't you improve your homeland? Don't know, laughing my ass off, but I'm doing better than you are here after being born here. Guess my genetic makeup is better than yours, potato boy. See you on the battlefield. First of all, whenever Indians challenge you to a fight, it's always only on Twitter or DMs. They never show up to an actual fight because we all know, we've seen them. They're 85 pounds at best.
The other day, I was at my gym and it was full of Indian dudes. I had to wait over an hour to use the 10-pound dumbbells. Come on, Indian dudes, you've been coming to the gym for a year, you still weigh exactly 85 pounds. I posted that joke on the internet, pissed off 1.4 billion people. So I said, I'm going to learn some more things about Indian culture so I could find better ways to make fun of you. And I read this news article. 4 Indian guys gang raped a lizard. What kind of sick freak an Indian?